Hi there folks, my name's NovaWing24 and welcome to a little review of a X-Plane 11 product. So today we are going to be having a look at the recently released airport from ORBX for X-Plane 11. And of course I am talking about the release of Manchester Barton Airport, or otherwise known as City Airport and Heliport. So before we get started with this review, I'm going to first of all say thank you very much to the wonderful team over at ORBX for providing the review copy of this airfield for me to explore and show off to you guys today. And but basically how we're going to do today, we're going to have a look at some of the details of the airport down here at ground level through some of the X-Plane cameras, and I apologize in advance for some of this camera work because I am still getting used to the X-Plane 11. I genuinely am. After that, we're going to go through, after we've sort of highlighted some of the things about this airport, we're then going to go for a bit of a flight. We're going to fly around, get a bit more of an aerial view and have a look at some of the extensive coverage area outside of the airport boundary covered by this add-on. So we're going to get started sort of as we do this sort of bit of a circuit here of the view and get an idea of this this 4-runway airport. So we've got our 2 parallel grass runways here on 26 left and right, and then we've got 32 and opposite reciprocal 14, and then we've got 02 and 20 as the other runway there. So this airport is a very, very historical airport, and it's one of the ones that's actually sort of doing a bit of reading on it as well. Actually, I knew it was sort of historical, and I knew that it was served as a bit of a film location over the last few years for many productions, both British and international productions, because of its historical setting. But I didn't realise it was actually the first purpose-built municipal aerodrome in the United Kingdom. So yeah, it's very interesting that all the other previous airfields were sort of ad hoc or temporary structures and things like that, whereas this one was the first one that was actually dedicated and planned and actually sort of land purchased expressly for it to become an airfield. Now, as I was alluding to before, there's a lot of history that goes with this airfield, including a lot of the buildings here. So actually one of the buildings there with the side there, that's the Pemberton Hangar. So that's a grade 2 listed building, and that one actually lasts back all the way back to the 1930s when it was actually constructed, along with the control tower that we see over there as well. So both of these are sort of very original buildings, and then we've got another couple of hangars here, sort of the green ones. They sort of from the around the immediately pre-war and the war years. So there's a lot of history here, and because of that, and because of these buildings, the fact that they're being kept and maintained, and because they are listed and protected under the National Trust, that means that this airfield has become very, very popular as a destination as a film set for both for TV series and movies. Now, I don't have a extensive list of films and things that have been done here, but essentially it is one of, as I said, because it is one of the few airfields that still has that sort of period control tower, period buildings left as the airstrip. It becomes very popular and very crucial as a film set for many of those carriages there. So, if you have seen any sort of television or film lately where you've seen an airfield in the United Kingdom that's out of the 1930s and 40s, it probably would be not surprising if it was actually filmed on location here at Manchester Barton. So beyond that, as I said, and getting on with that as well, as I said, because of the fact that here that it is such an extensive sort of historical area, it is actually really cool that they've actually gone to a lot of the detail about the buildings here. And this is the kind of detail we've gone to. Like, we've got this beautiful sort of, and all through photo reel here, custom textures as well, but beautiful high detail of all the signs. Like, you can read the signs here. Like, this is how beautifully high detailed and photoreal that actually they've done here. So they definitely, so it's a new developer for the ORBX team, Tony. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the surname, but yeah, it's one of the new developers for ORBX, obviously coming on board for the X-Plane 11 team, and he's just done an absolutely incredible detailed job here. Like, we've got to see the main air office here. Like, it's just beautiful high detail here. Apparently there's been like several on-site field trips have been done here to actually get everything right. It takes advantage of some ORBX library stuff as well with all the static aircraft that we've seen displayed here. One of the other cool little nifty little features as well here, and I'm sort of got here, I mentioned about the historical hangars as well. one of the cool little, one of the actual custom starts that, well, one of the custom starts, but one of the starting options you have is actually starting inside the hangar. So you can actually have your aircraft started inside the hangar and actually taxi out. Just bear in mind though that this hangar is, it is fairly low, so don't start in the, don't put a DC-3 in there. Just saying, not the best idea. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, it's kind of like nifty little thing in there to put in there. And I'm really impressed with it. Again, it gives that sort of extra little bit of life to the airport, because that's one of some of the things that I've sort of mentioned in my previous X-Plane 11 reviews that I have mixed feelings about, with the fact that many features of X-Plane 11, and especially for ORBX and other airports that we've seen over the years for the ESP platforms, there's a lot of life in airports, and that's courtesy for ORBX's case from their ORBX libraries and their people flow and creature flow technology. Now, while we don't have that actual sort of animated people in this airfield, they did give us some animated flags, which is something that, as I said, is something I have not seen in other X-Plane 11 airports. Now, I don't have a lot, and I haven't done. I'm still getting coming to grips with X-Plane 11. So it may be something that's a bit more common, but it's not something that I've seen before. So definitely we can see that ORBX is definitely putting the effort in here, and even so, and even with, although we've got some static people, there's enough of the clutter and enough of the environment around the airfield to actually bring it to life, and it doesn't feel like it's a dead airport. And that's, I think, really an important thing for the immersion sort of factor for this one. Now, again, as we can sort of see here, this is the again the historical control tower that is present at the airfield here, and again, very beautifully, highly detailed and beautifully modeled here, with all the different with all the beautiful high resolution textures. And a lot of very beautiful detailed model work going through here as well. We've also got the wind here, which is animated and does work with various wind changes as well, which I did test out. So yeah, it's a lot of beautiful detail here, a nice little bit amount of clutter going through, and it's a beautiful set of highly detailed custom AI models for the airstrip, including models of the Land Rover, that actually services as the fire and rescue vehicle for the airfield. One of them, there is another one that is there. He's lurking around the airport somewhere. And again, not only is the historical buildings done, but and not even the buildings that are actually sort of intact, as we sort of see those ones, sort of protected buildings over here. There's also this building over here, which is currently, even the actual, so as the actual how it appears at the moment, is sort of still being it's in a bit of a refurbishment restoration state, and they've actually modeled it again, and again it adds to that bit of life to the airport, because it's not all picture perfect. Like, it's not a perfect layout. It is an old, rather decrepit building that is sort of, suffering from the ravages of time, but it has actually been modeled in that way, and actually gives you that sort of alive feeling about the airport. So while we may not have animated people, there are still plenty of things here that actually give it that living feeling, which is always great to have. Included also the runway 26 airport cafe, which is of course included here, looking very well modeled. And as I said, I have to be fairly impressed by the way everything is done here, which of course we should really come to expect, with the fact that this is an ORBX product. So anything coming out in the ORBX brand, we do sort of tend to expect a fairly high and fairly high level of detail. And definitely this airport does not disappoint at all. One of the things that does impress me the most, though, because I know sometimes ORBX airports can be a little heavy on frame rates, especially in the ESP world. What I found with this rendition of Manchester Barton for X-Plane 11 by ORBX is that it did not impact my frames at all. So I'm still getting the same amount of frames that I got previously with and without this airfield, and even just with the default one. So there was no real change for that, which is a great thing to see, and it really means that they are definitely paying attention and actually doing a lot of hard work in the background to make them not only give us a visually appealing and very well modeled and very well detailed add-on, but they're also giving us something that is very efficient and very light on the simulator as well, which is great to have. Now, speaking as I just sort of mentioned about the parking and stuff like that, now this airport is an airport and heliport, and now of course we did see the fact that we've got the sort of, I did mention that we've got the in-hangar parking as well. You do also have some parking down here at the end of runway 32. There is some, the grass ramp there, there is some plenty of parking there as well. There's also a couple of helicopter helipads over on the north part of the strip as well. But beyond that, Manchester Airport also includes a heliport as well. Now the heliport itself is a little bit further over to the west. Now the heliport, there's two parts to the heliport. So there's the actual sort of the main sort of city heliport, which is part of the airfield. Now this was an old University of Manchester building that was purchased by the Airfield Corporation, and then it was actually turned into the heliport and business centre here. Now this is designed to actually take advantage of the fact that there is quite a few football games, very large football games happen nearby, and for VIPs and people wanting to get expressways into the area, they can actually fly in. As well as that, it also supports conference facilities to be able to, so you can have your business meetings on site as well. So they're definitely trying to leverage off that burgeoning market of sort of private air travel. To do that, they are also alongside being giving us 2 heli spaces to actually launch our virtual helicopters from. They also serve as the home for the volunteer Northwest Air Ambulance Service. So the Northwest Air Ambulance Service offers EC135, so covering a large part of Manchester and the greater Manchester area and surrounding areas with heli mobile services, and it's all run as a charity run, and they've actually included a modelled EC135 here on the ramp for theirs, so complete with their full livery. So again, it's this nice little attention to detail that I like to see going on for this one. Now, beside the main heliport as well, there is also the Northwest, so the Great Northern, the police service. The police air mobile service also operate helicopters here 24 hours a day. So the airport itself is a daytime only airport, except for the emergency services here, which do operate 24 hours using portable lighting that they roll out as needed. Now they didn't give it any modelling, custom modelling for any of the the British police helicopters that operated here. Instead, they gave us one of the default 76 search and rescue helicopters. But yeah, you know, we'll come to take it or leave it. But the custom building was done complete with the, as we can see here, the logo of the Greater Manchester Police is also included here. So, as I said, a lot of attention to detail went into this airport, and it's really impressive to see. And as I said, I really enjoy seeing that kind of detail go in here, and especially for helicopter fans, the fact that they're actually sort of using and modelling those and giving us all the starts is really great to see. So for those of you who do like your frantic palm trees, this is definitely going to be something that you're probably going to want to invest in. Now, beyond that, ORBX have also been using this as because they are fairly new to the X-Plane space for development. They've been using Manchester Airport as a bit of a experiment to actually sort of see how they go with actually implementing some of their other technologies that they're used to having in the ESP world, and things that they want to do and actually bring to the X-Plane 11 world. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump into a helicopter, and we're going to go and have a look. So again, if I can get this camera utilities going, there we go. We're going to jump into an S76. I'm probably going to make a bit of a fool of myself while I try and actually fly one of these things, because Frantic Palm Trees and I are not particularly always good friends. But we're going to jump into a helicopter. We're going to go for a bit of a fly around the area covered by the scenery. As I said, there's a fairly extensive amount of scenery included by this, which is a combination of photoreal and some of their custom autogen technologies. We're going to talk about that more. We're going to jump into the S76 here. We're going to take off. We're going to have a look through the surrounding area now. Alrighty, so here we are in our S76, which, funnily enough, the helicopter company, the charter helicopter company that is actually based here at the heliport, actually operates this S76, so it's kind of appropriate. There you go. Alrighty, so as I said, we're going to take off here, and as I said, just marveling at some of the detail, like, yeah, the little, like, you know, the fueling bay right there, like the detail, the attention to detail that's gone through there is just. This is why I like a lot of ORBX airports, because they do pay attention to the detail. So anyway, all right, okay, enough of that. Let's get ourselves airborne, and what we'll do is we'll go for a quick flight. My track IR wants to work for me today. up. Alright, so again, as we usually see with a lot of the quality add-ons that we see these days, we see that not only do they do the airport, they also do the surrounding area. Now, part of that is they do a lot of, now, ORBX, of course, with the Manchester Barton is no exception. They're modeling a lot of the surrounding areas. So we've got about 30 square kilometers of photoreal and sort of not just photoreal has been included here. They're also using sort of experimenting with what looks like to be something very similar to what they've done with their cityscapes here. Now I can't be certain that it's exactly the same, but it looks very similar to that idea in the fact that they're taking sort of small sections of photoreal and actually sort of putting it down. So it may not be the exact area, but it's still but it fits in with what it is. Now they've also modelled the golf course, which is just next to the airfield as well. They've modelled that quite nicely. And we can see that they've got a lot of all the autogen they've got for the housing in this area as well is also customized for the UK actual design. So it actually suits the area, and we can sort of see here as we're going over that, you know, they're putting autogen down, a mixture of autogen on top of the photoreal. So it actually is all sort of suits and actually sort of does work for everybody. They've also gone through and double-checked the vector data and actually added and made sure we've got various road signs and things like that. The other thing as well is the fact that they actually does things. People do actually drive on the correct side of the road in this as well, which is something that is a mixed bag. I noticed in X-Plane a lot of it is done as the American sort of American or European style of driving on the right, whereas, you know, in this thing we are in the UK, so the UK drives on the left. So it's interesting actually seeing that, and again that is modeled correctly. Now I don't know whether that's an ORBX thing or whether it's an update in 11.1, I'm not sure, but again, it's something that I did notice when I was actually doing the test flights before I started filming this. Now, as we come up on the airfield here, another feature of the airfield as well is that this part of Greater Manchester is actually essentially a part of it is actually sort of bog and swampland, and that's actually one of the issues that sometimes this airfield can actually have. Is it can actually often be closed. It used to be fairly regularly closed due to the fact that the airfield would actually not drain. It was actually so the aircraft would not be able to use the grass, as you can see, all grass runways. So they would not be able to use the runways, and they would get bogged in the actual parking areas. And so yeah, the airfield would actually have to be closed on a regular basis because of that. But lately, they did undertake an extra additional draining sort of work in the last back in it looks like it was about 2009, 2006 to 2009. It was actually alleviated much of those issues now, so it happens less often. Now, one of the things that's very common we see is picking out landmarks and that kind of things as well. And this scenery is no exception. It includes quite a few landmarks for this part of Manchester, including we've got two stadiums. So the first one we've got here is the AJ Twin Stadium, and then which is a rugby stadium. So AJ Bell, sorry. We've got the thing complete with the photo reel there of the sponsor logo on the top and everything there. Practice fields over beside the river there. And we've also got Old Trafford is modelled as well, but we're going to get over to that as we continue exploration. And this is again what I was talking about is again this attention to detail that we see on the actual sort of surrounding area. So it's so much is covered, like it's only 30 square kilometers, doesn't seem like much, but you can pack a lot of really high quality content into that, and it's again very impressive to see that ORBX has not only done this, but they've put in their custom points of interest and made sure that we've got custom details suitable for the area, but we've also got generic autogen popping up as well, which is again be suitable for the United Kingdom and for the area, this sort of region of United Kingdom as well. So it's great to see this sort of interesting couple of technologies that they're actually sort of trying and working out here. Now, I actually don't know what this building is. I believe it's a golf shooting. Well, I know there's a golf shooting range, or a sort of golf range just beside it. I'm not actually sure what that building is, but it's very impressive. But I did see it on Google Maps actually modeled like that as well, so I didn't know it's accurate. And again, as I said, we're getting that nice little mix of photoreal with actual auto-gen popping up, as well as custom modeling of things like churches and stuff like that. Churches and major buildings as well, also all included. So a lot of really I'm really seeing ORBX actually very much flexing their sort of development muscle, as it were, and actually sort of leveraging off some of the capabilities that X-Plane has as a platform, and actually going through and using some of their tried and tested skills as scenery developers for flight simulation, actually exercising those in and around X-Plane as a new development for them. As you can see, as I said, we're seeing more, let's say, large parts of Greater Manchester, all detailed. As I said, 30 square kilometre coverage area, looking quite nice. Follow this river around for a bit, and we'll see if we can head over to Old Trafford Stadium. Again, many of the bridges are actually all been custom modeled here as well, so a lot of terrain features that we see through here, all custom modeled with custom terrain mesh for the area as well. So again, a lot of detail gone into this work here, the add-on of not just the airfield, but the surrounding area. Here we are coming up on Old Trafford here, and sort of like the end of the coverage area. You can sort of see that sort of, it's a fairly distinct demarcation as well. You sort of go with the vector data sort of stops from the scenery add-on, and actually goes back into the default X-Plane 11 scenery. Just turning over here and fly over Old Trafford for any football fans here. Enjoy the little virtual fly past. I say pretty well modelled as well for this one as well. Though the bump in the middle of the terrain, the bump in the middle of the pitch though, that possibly needs a bit of work. Just throwing it out there. Might need a bit of work there, guys, on that one. Ugh. Otherwise, pretty good otherwise. Alright, so we'll wander back to the airfield, and we'll circle and land back at the heliport, and we'll go our final thoughts of the add-on and the surrounding areas. But again, just before I do that though, I must say that, as I said, absolutely flawless on frames. As I said, no issues. I'm fine. I know helicopters can be a bit of challenging, especially they are very demanding for high frame rates, and definitely have, as much as I'm a horrible helicopter pilot, virtual helicopter pilot, I'm still able to do fairly well even over this very intense, fairly intense scenery. So again, a testament to the developers of actually sort of going through, of giving us a very rich experience, but still manage to keep it performance light. Alright, so here we are back on the ground, and I managed to not completely destroy the helicopter, which is a fairly unique thing for me, so there you go, well done for me. Anyway, so final thoughts on this scenery. Okay, so this is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a really high detailed and incredibly accurate rendition of a very historic but very small GA GA airport and local heliport for helicopter enthusiasts in England. It is exactly what it says on the tin, and it lives up to everything that it does. It's incredibly detailed, does all the things that you would expect we've come to expect from ORBX, from the ESP, especially for people who've been using ORBX for a number of years in the ESP platforms. Definitely comes with all of those features that we're used to seeing, and that is really great to see that ORBX is expanding out into X-Plane 11 and actually continuing to give us really incredibly highly detailed work. As far as the scenery itself goes, it is incredibly detailed, but also incredibly performance friendly. Definitely don't have any kind of major or any kind of negative performance impact, and it definitely does. Even though it may not have like animated things like we've seen on some airfields, it still manages to feel like a living, breathing piece of scenery as well, which is something that I feel is often missing from X-Plane 11 scenery. So I'm really impressed to see that, and really a great experience. This is a great airport for if you are wanting somewhere different to go, and if you do wanting to expand sort of the Manchester area, because again, as we saw through some of that, a really interesting sort of use of some of the techniques that ORBX have been developing over the years for ESP platforms, and starting to bring across into X-Plane to actually give us a lot more accurate sort of rendition of the Greater Manchester area, and not just the airport itself. So even for that alone is pretty good. Coming at first price, as I said, its standard price at launch is 33 Australian dollars, so around about sort of, what was that, about 28 US dollars or so. So a fairly standard price for an airfield of this, especially of this quality. So I definitely can't complain for that one. If you are a helicopter user and you do enjoy low and slow flying around this sort of area, you pretty much can't go wrong with it. Not going to be for tube liner flyers, definitely not, because you'll have you won't be able to, sort of, especially with grass runways and things like that. But if you're a GA or a Warbird pilot and you want somewhere different to go, this is probably the one that you might want to consider picking up. Alright, so as I said, thank you very much for joining me as we round out the review here. I want to say once again, thank you very much to the wonderful team over at ORBX for actually providing me with the review copy of this one. And there is also, you can also head over to my friends over at helisim.com. They've released their own review of this one as well, so maybe you can have a read over their website. Otherwise, folks, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And, of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. Alright, folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, stay skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.